Much of what we know about medieval England is found in this book called the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. It was written in the Saxon language during the 10th and 11th centuries. It tells us about the pageant of the people and events that are part of Anglo-Saxon England. It tells us, too, about 1066, a date that marks the start of a new chapter in English history. The chapter begins with two men, Harold, King of England, and William, Duke of Normandy. King Harold of England was descended from a line of Saxon kings. William was ruler of Normandy in France. In 1066, William led his Normans across the Channel to win the English crown. Here, William and his men faced the cliffs of England. The Normans are unopposed as they near the beach, and as they land, they accomplish the last successful invasion of England, an invasion by French-speaking Normans of a Saxon land. From the beach, the Normans march inland to this hill, and here, in 1066, they meet the Saxons under King Harold in the Battle of Hastings. Standing on the hill, we can imagine the clang of steel and the din of the Battle of Hastings, as we see it woven in scenes of the famous Bayeux tapestry. The Norman archers, mounted on horses, hurl themselves at the English, who fight on foot behind large shields. Here is William, says the text, and the Duke presses on until King Harold is fatally wounded by an arrow and falls to the ground. Today a stone marks the place where Harold fell, and the ruins of Battle Abbey mark the battlefield where the Norman conquest began. As William and his men took over England, they built great Norman castles. This is Hastings, near the battlefield. Dover Castle on the southern coast. The Tower of London. Durham Castle, a tremendous stronghold in the north of England. And the castle at Exeter, one of many that William built. Not only did William and his Normans build great castles, they were building a new government. The Norman conquerors brought feudalism to England. In each castle lived a Norman noble who owned a vast tract of land worked by serfs. The serfs included many Saxons, who greatly outnumbered their Norman conquerors in feudal England. The Christian church was another element of the feudal system, a system built on the concept of loyalty. Here a knight is swearing his oath of allegiance to his lord. Head of the feudal lords was William the Conqueror, and the feudal system he brought set the pattern of government for the kings who ruled after William in feudal England, including Henry II, Richard the Lionheart, John, brother of Richard, Edward I, and near the end of the medieval period, Henry V. During these years came a steady growth of royal power. One of our earliest evidences of royal power is the Domesday Book, compiled by William the Conqueror. It is a tax survey of everything of value in England in 1086. The book shows us how complete the Norman conquest must have been, for the text tells us that King William sent his men into every shire all over England and caused it to be found out what land the king had. So minutely did he cause it to be searched out that there was not 1 yard of land, nor even an ox or a cow or a swine, that was not set down in his writ. The people resented this survey, and perhaps here began the struggle against the royal power, the slow but steady growth of individual rights. One of these rights, largely developed during the reign of Henry II, was trial by jury. Forceful and efficient, Henry II is remembered for his contributions to English law. Into town and country, Henry sent his administrators to dispense justice. In each district, it became the custom to choose 12 men to give evidence about trial cases. Because these men had to swear to tell the truth, they were called jurors, from the Latin jurare, to swear. In addition to these written laws of Henry's reign, there were many opinions that his legal officials made. Their decisions became part of common law. Trial by jury, the growth of common law. These basic elements of freedom continued to grow under Henry's son, Richard. Dashing, colorful Richard the Lionheart was King of England for 10 years, but spent only 10 months in England. Much of the time he spent in the Crusades, fighting the Muslims for the Holy Land. While gaining fame and glory here, he was losing his royal power back home in England. In their great manor houses, the English barons were assuming more authority. By the time Richard's brother John came to the throne, the barons were very powerful. The struggle between the king and barons was climaxed on this meadow, Runnymede, in southern England. Here, 700 years ago, the English barons forced King John to accept the Great Charter, the Magna Carta, they had drawn up. One of the greatest moments in English history took place when King John touched the Great Seal to indicate his acceptance of the document which became a keystone in the building of English democracy and eventually of our own. Among its many provisions are restrictions of royal powers and the listing of certain freedoms. The English Church shall be free and shall hold its rights entire and its liberties uninjured. The city of London shall have all its ancient liberties and free customs. All other cities, boroughs, towns, and harbors are to have their free customs. No free man shall be taken or shall be imprisoned, except by the legal judgment of his peers or the law of the land. Yes, liberties that the common people gained in medieval England are part of English life today. The growth of individual rights continued. Under King Edward I, the development of Parliament helped the cause of the common man. Edward I is remembered for his model parliament, composed of nobles, clergy, and, for the first time, members of the middle class. What touches all should be approved by all, said Edward. The early parliaments began to meet here at Westminster Hall. Today, Westminster Hall has become a symbol of representative government. In a similar way, Westminster Abbey became a symbol for the British royalty. Here, William the Conqueror and succeeding kings and queens were crowned. Here is one of the great landmarks of medieval England. Last of the medieval monarchs was Henry V. His great victory in France was later immortalized in Shakespeare's famous play, Henry V. With the reign of Henry V, the chapter of feudal England was coming to a close. It was a period which saw the growth of royal power, as well as the growth of individual rights, through such milestones as the idea of trial by jury and the growth of common law, the restrictions on royal power drawn up in the Magna Carta, and the development of a representative parliament. Today, the statue of Richard the Lionheart and the Parliament building in London summarize two ideas of feudal England: a royal line of kings and the development of parliament. Out of these came the limited monarchy and the foundations of English democracy.